Hey, what up, guys? I have been a gamer for most of my life. I have played a lot of video games, enjoyed the stories of many of the characters found throughout my history with games, primarily with like RPGs and other story-driven games. Some platformers with some well-known mascots and all that. And out of all those video game characters, there's been one that has stood out above the rest. And you'll be surprised who my all-time favorite video game character is, which is what I'm going to share with you guys today. It is none other than one of the leads of one of the best PlayStation 2 RPG trilogies, Cosmos from Xenosaga. Yes, she is my all-time favorite video game character, and I am going to spend the rest of this video sharing with you guys why I absolutely fell in love with her from the very beginning of Xenosaga to her cameo in the Xenoblade franchise, as well as Project Cross Zone. She is one of the best video game characters I have ever known. And before I get into this, please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. My name is msot Gamer. I love JRPGs and other games, both old and new. I do game hunting, game collection stuff, and videos just talking about what I'm into, which is primarily video games and anime and other nerd stuff. So with that, let's talk about Cosmos from Xenosaga. So I want to start this off by sharing a little bit about how I got introduced to Cosmos, my number one favorite video game character of all time, and that's thanks to one of the very first JRPGs that I played back when I had an original Nintendo 3DS XL. I discovered Project Cross Zone, and I was introduced to a lot of different characters in that game, and that was my first introduction to Cosmos. When she appeared later on in the game, I believe in that game she is teamed up with Telos, who also appears in the Xenosaga series, and I ended up finding out way later after that she is actually from Xenosaga Episode 3, which is one of my favorite turn-based JRPGs ever. Really love that game. And then she was also introduced, well, not introduced, but she came back for the sequel, Project Cross Zone 2, where she was teamed up with Fiora from the Xenoblade Chronicles games, which I'm also really glad to know that she also made a cameo appearance in those games, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in particular, as a rare blade. But with Project Cross Zone, she is one of the coolest looking characters in that game, and she is very powerful. But when she is teamed up with Telos, and both of them kind of have like similar weapons and movesets and all that in game, and I don't really remember how far into Project Cross Zone that you actually get introduced to Cosmos, but I want to say it's like roughly the halfway point. I could be wrong. And then it's cool that they teamed her up with Fiora. No, Fiora from Xenoblade Chronicles. I kind of spaced out there, but yeah, so it was really cool that I got introduced to that, and then that's how I kind of discovered Xenosaga, which is a turn-based RPG trilogy and spiritual successor to Xenogears that was released on the PlayStation 2 by Monolith Soft and Bandai Namco, and it introduced us officially to Cosmos. It was the first game, Episode 1 was the first game that she appeared in, and she is a central figure to Xenosaga. You can argue that she is technically the main protagonist, with Shion kind of being like the secondary, because a lot of the story in Xenosaga heavily revolves around Cosmos. Now, if you don't know what Cosmos is, she is an anti-Gnosis weapon, and the Gnosis are like these alien beings from an upper plane of upper dimensional plane within the Xenosaga universe. There's a lot of lore that goes in there. And then with her appearance in Xenosaga, not Xenosaga, but Xenoblade Chronicles 2 as a rare blade, I personally had spent over 400 hours in that game trying to farm to get Cosmos. She was like the main reason I really put all that time into that game, and it was just really hard for me to get her because you had to get the legendary core crystals in order to get the rare blades in the game, and I got nearly every single one except for Cosmos, and I was just absolutely frustrated with that because I love her design in the game. Story-wise, it has been believed that she was rebuilt by Shion and then somehow sent into the Xenoblade Chronicles universe, and lore-wise, it's really confusing about how Cosmos made an appearance in the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 when I firmly believe that the Xenosaga trilogy was taking place in a completely different galaxy, but set in the same universe as Xenoblade Chronicles, and they were like at different times and all that. It's really confusing, and I could go on for hours just going on about that. But yeah, Cosmos, I believe that she is to be the the main protagonist of the Xenosaga series, since a lot of the story revolves around her. What made me really fall in love with her was her character development, going from like this emotionless prototype combat android that has the ability to make these alien beings known as the Gnosis be able to be harmed. She had this thing built into her called the Hilbert effect that allowed the Gnosis to actually like take on a physical form in the Xenosaga universe, so that way they can be attacked and then defeated, and people can be saved from them. And it made her have like this winning edge against the battle against the Gnosis. But she was like this very emotionless humanoid female robot character that is also kind of mysterious. And then throughout the entire trilogy leading up to the end, she kind of shows more of a human side. And spoiler alert, you do find out exactly why she has started to develop more of a human side, and you come to find out that she has like the spirit, the reincarnated spirit of Mary Magdalene from the old Christian days, back when the Zohar was first discovered on planet Earth and all that. So she does wind up like developing this more human side to her, and she ends up caring for a lot of the people that she has been on this journey with to kind of save the entire universe. And she also becomes like a living embodiment for hope for people in the Xenosaga universe. And not only that, she's just extremely badass. She has all sorts of different cool weapons that she uses, from like this giant energy sword, I think it's called the Dragon's Tooth, and all these weapons were all made by Vector Industries, which was the company that Shion worked for, and she and Kevin, which was this other guy that's very important that I could go into, but I primarily just want to focus on Cosmos here. But they worked together on the Cosmos project, which was to design this humanoid anti-Gnosis weapon. Now, Cosmos, I will put up on the screen because it is an acronym. I don't remember exactly what it stands for, but it is. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting a little tongue-tied here, but yeah, so Vector Industries also made this wide arsenal of weapons for her, including the giant energy sword that I just mentioned called the Dragon Tooth. There's also her revolver that she uses. She also has her very well-known triple-barrel twin Gatling guns known as the FG shot. She has an arm cannon. She has the R-blade, the X-Buster in episode 1, which was like this multi-directional laser weapon that pops out of her chest, her abdomen, not really her chest, but in episode 3 she does have a weapon built into her chest. I think it's called the D Teneritas, and it like creates this like giant energy ball that she then will send out the enemies and can do mass damage. She is very powerful, especially when you build her up right. In Xenosaga episode 3, she has this master ability called Blood Dancer that allows her to kind of like take in all of the enemies' attacks. I believe it's been about a year or so since I played Xenosaga episode 3, but that ability alone can make her pretty busted when you build her up right. And I was able to get her to be pretty busted in game, and she was like one of the best characters to use. She was able to deal high levels of damage, and she is a tank, being able to take on multiple devastating attacks at once and still keep on fighting. And I just was like really impressed with how well written she was, and her dynamic with Shion, because Shion was confirmed to be kind of like the reincarnation of Mary Magdalene's like very close assistant, and their relationship and all that just made me fall in love with Cosmos a lot more. She is just absolutely amazing, and she's also one of the co-pilots for the ES Dina, which you get to use a lot in Xenosaga episode 2, like towards the halfway point of the game, I believe. I didn't really make it that far. I kind of dropped episode 2 for various reasons, because the art style and all that just didn't really jive with me. The combat was very slow, but Xenosaga episode 3 had like completely overhauled that. It is a fantastic game. I know it's an expensive game on PlayStation 2, but it really showed me more about Cosmos and why she just stood out above all the other video game characters I've come to know and love, like Rayman, Cloud, Solid Snake, Link from Legend of Zelda, Samus, Mario, like all these iconic video game characters that could have been my favorite video game character of all time. But then I fell in love with Xenosaga and was introduced to Cosmos, and it's just like, wow, here is a character that is not only a plot device and like a weapon, but she is much more than that. She has become way more than what she was designed to be, and it just made her be more interesting to me. And yeah, that's why Cosmos is one of my favorite video game characters of all time. Why she stands there as number 1 above all these other characters that are just really iconic. And I know this is going to sound really weird for me to say this, because there's all these other really great characters, but yes, Cosmos is my favorite video game character of all time. Yes, she is a waifu. She is very gorgeous, especially for a robot, and I put her in the holy trinity of beautiful JRPG robots with 2B and Idis from Persona 3. Yeah, but she is also very powerful. She's very heroic. She's strong. She cares for the people that kind of built her. She cares very deeply for Shion. She cares a lot for her friends and has been willing to sacrifice herself in order to save the universe that they live in. And also, spoiler alert for Xenosaga Episode 3, don't really know this for sure, but I have a feeling that she is alive, because this is also a spoiler for Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed, but I have a feeling that that little light that is shown at the end of the DLC Future Redeemed from Xenoblade 3 is the same from the end of Xenosaga Episode 3, where you see Cosmos is drifting off towards Lost Jerusalem, and I believe she will return, and she is alive, and that she will come back. And I would love to see more of her in a future game. Who knows? The voice actor for her kind of unofficially confirmed that there might be a new Xenoblade game, which could be a brand new game, or it could just be Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Switch 2 edition coming out later. But yeah, her voice actor, by the way, is also really great. She did a fantastic job portraying Cosmos, and just, I don't really know what else I could say about her. There's a lot more to her that I could just go on and on and on about, and I would love to do a deep dive into Xenosaga and all of its characters and their dynamics with all of the other characters in game and the lore and all of that, but there's dozens of videos out there that will explain it more in depth and have done it a lot better. And that's kind of like how I learned to understand all the different lore points and story moments within Xenosaga, and how I ended up falling in love with the whole Xeno franchise. And above all of them, Xenosaga Episode 3 is my all-time favorite, with Cosmos being my number one favorite video game character of all time. And I'm just going to keep saying that. So that's going to be it. There was a lot more that I wanted to go on about, and if I do remember some of that, I will probably bring it up in a future Xenoblade video, because I do want to talk about Xenoblade and Xenosaga more, because I love both of those trilogies together. They just are some of the best when it comes to JRPG stories, video game stories, fiction in general, sci-fi fiction. They are just absolutely brilliant. Tetsuya Takahashi is a genius when it comes to the storytelling in those games, and they're so good. If you haven't played any of them, I highly recommend starting with Xenogears if you can, and then diving into the Xenosaga games, which I'm still hoping that Bandai Namco would be willing to let Monolith Soft work on an HD remaster for those games, and hopefully Nintendo will allow Monolith Soft to put those games on other consoles and not just Nintendo. But if they were to come only to Nintendo, I wouldn't really complain too much, because there's a lot of people out there that want to play Xenosaga, but because they're just stuck on the PlayStation 2 and they're would rather have them on modern consoles, they just haven't really gotten to that. But yeah, so that's going to be it for this video. I really do hope you guys enjoyed it. This has just been very, very meaningful for me. I've really been wanting to share who my favorite video game character of all time is, and I could have done a lot better talking about her, but I feel like I got my point across. So, I'm Mecha Otaku Gamer, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.